Aklımızda bir soru var. İnsanlığın en büyük merakı 300 bin yıldır bu sorunun içinde saklı. Acaba ufukta neler var? Bize keşfetme cesareti veren bu soruyu ülkemizin geleceği için soruyoruz. Güneş ufuktan nasıl doğacak? Sıfır karbon dünya hedefiyle iklim sorunları için fikirler ekiyoruz. Bilinmeyen ufka, bilimle yelken açıyoruz. Türkiye'nin dijital devrimini, ekonomide banka ve fintechlerin yeni stratejilerini konuşuyoruz. 2023'e doğru, 2050 ufkuyla Cumhuriyetimizin yol haritasını çiziyoruz. Türkiye'ye ve dünyaya yön veren, ufkumuzu genişleten 53 konuşmacı. 1-3 Haziran'da 21. kez düzenlenen Forum İstanbul 2023 konferanslarında. Siz de takip edin. Ufukta neler var? Birlikte arayalım.
Ekranlar önünde bizleri izleyen, dinleyen değerli katılımcılar.
Distinguished guests watching us from the screens, with the strategic partnership of the Turkish Exporters Assembly, and with our main sponsors APS Textiles, Denizbank, Green for Growth Fund, Gülsan Holding, Turkish Economic Bank, TSKB, and the Turkish Bank, and with the sponsorship of the Dünya Gazetesi, which is making the media and the broadcasting of these.
We would like to remind you that you can follow the conference in English in Forum İstanbul 2023 YouTube channel. Bu bölümün ilk sohbetine geçmeden evvel...
So before we pass to this first session of the afternoon, you can definitely use the FI 2022 hashtag in order to put your comments on and ask your questions. And on the other side, for 3 days, you can check the details of the program at www.forumistanbul.com address. And on the other hand, you can also follow the Forum Istanbul 2023 conference social media accounts. As you all know, the entrepreneurship ecosystem and the investments that the Turkish investors are receiving has increased. And on the other side, there is the insider company who is also the unicorn, the CMO of this company is going to make a coffee talk with you. And they're going to be talking about the roadmap of global entrepreneurship. And I leave the floor to Ms. Dorman and also Ms. NAZLIODLU. Hello, MERVE. Hello. So today we are going to be talking about the global market. You are the global market of this company, of Insider. An Insider is a great success story in which I feel great pride of. It is the first software unicorn of Turkey. According to Crunchbase data, it is the first one out of 100 companies that is become a very prominent company. And you are a very rare woman entrepreneur, founder, and CEO, and you are the B2B unicorn. How did your story begin? Can you share it with us? You wonderfully explained this. Actually, the story has started with 6 co-founders, 6 chairs and 6 tables with all the dreams. And these people come to an office and they say that, well, we want to be a product company out of the Silicon Valley. So for 1 year, they make a market research. And of course, like every youngster in Turkey, they check out the e-trade, digital and technology. And they are checking out a sector in which they can actually make their dream come true. That's when we started, when we talked with the e-trade commerce, they understand that there is something that has to be filled in the sector. It is the transformation optimization technologies that the e-trade markets need. the story started this way, but then it shifts because they start to produce the technology. Insider actually from different channels are collecting the data of the clients, and they are actually operating it in a machine algorithm in which way we can actually understand our clients better. And in different areas, in websites or in mobile, you make a customized experience. You can present customized experiences here. For instance, when you enter a brand's site, or I enter a brand site, we have individual actually preferences. Like for you, you can check out for black jackets and I for white jackets. So according to your needs, or anything that you need as a contribution is brought up to you. One of our engineers, actually we have 3 engineers that are coming up together, and they are creating a platform from over their websites. They are creating individual platforms. Evan, who's 24 years old, is writing down the codes. And right now, they start to develop technologies which the Singapore airline is also using. So we are working with very less amount of engineers and sources, but you can create a great contribution to many. So this is a story of Insider. That is a great and extraordinary success. You are active in 26 countries, and you have 1,212,000 clients. So you started very fast. Just after 9 months of your first operation, you opened yourself up to the world. Can you please talk a little bit about that globalization? Yes, of course. We wanted to be global since the first day. In Warsaw and in London, we opened up offices, and then we opened ourselves up to Asia, to Jakarta, Tokyo, Seoul, and we opened up in 11 different areas in Asia. Later on, in 2020, we opened ourselves up to 5 continents. We are available in 26 countries. And of course, the story of becoming global was not easy. We are very frequently asked about this question, but I can say that it has a lot of advantages. Of course, it has disadvantages too, but the advantages are actually Insider is when you take a look to Gardner, Forrester, and GTBs, in particular, the analysis in the United States, we realize that we have actually taken further steps compared to the other technology companies that are well known. How did we do it? Because we understood the people's needs on a global level, and we were constantly evolving our products. It has a lot of advantages. And for instance, you can open up an office in Japan, or in Jakarta, you can actually recruit a person who is very close to your culture. So you are actually exercising your muscles in that area. And if you have a team that can come over any challenge, and if these people are very ambitious, then you can come over many problems. That's the reason why we were always believing in becoming global. Well, I do understand you and agree with you. As we were talking about the team, of course, those who are successful are the teams that are working really in great ambition. One of the greatest factors of this is actually the institutional culture. How would you actually define the culture of Insider? It's very hard. It's difficult to define. The culture is actually just telling how you love somebody. You can say everything about, but that person has to understand it and believe it. And that's the reason why culture is like an invisible thing. It's like a thing that is a magnet bringing up people together. There is common values, and these common values bring up success. Cultures in that manner is regarded as such. There are plenty of values, and I and my team believed in it. This care, it is really hard to explain care, but maybe I can give you some examples about care. For instance, you find the garbage on the floor and put it into the waste. It starts with that. In the first days, for instance, we were cleaning the dishwasher every day and each other and one by one. So, for instance, you make also sacrifices. You make sacrifices. You train your engineers, or from 10,000 kilometers away, a client can. A client needs help, for instance, and you are out with your girlfriend, and you just try to help that person who's 10,000 kilometers away. So you give a lot of care in this. So that is the reason why we really like to work hard. And technology and software, if you are living in a country in which technology and software is not very prominent, and if your sources are not very diverse or are in variety, then you have to work a lot. You have to check out, you have to check the world, you have to sometimes imitate, and then you have to develop yourself from over there. And of course, you have an individual, a personal development. The personal development is not only done for yourself, your motivation, your productivity, and on the other hand, because we try to do something really good, we are building up something, and if we are not satisfied with what we build up, we try to do better. This unsatisfaction is actually developing us constantly, and on the other hand, we are touching other people's lives. This is a certain amount of an intuition, and we put our intuition to it. And you have an ownership program, don't you? Yes, our ownership program. Actually, we call it shareholder, but we call it as share owner rather than shareholder, because the employee stock option plan is a stock pool, and you actually use that tool. We were the first company that was bringing Sequoia in the Silicon Valley. It is the most rooted capital. It is the Sequoia capital. It came to Turkey and we brought it here. And it was a night time. And everybody was working really hard and insider. Some become a share owner, some not, of course. And it took their attention how people are working for each other, because those who achieve actually try to help the other person to achieve as well. And the employee stock option plan was also proposed to their own companies, and they created a video. And this is actually an example to create an impact effect. Yes, thank you very much. That's great. And we feel very proud of what you do with Hande as well. And she is also a very important person as an entrepreneur. In startup software areas, we want to see more women. What should be done? What does Insider do? Can you share about certain opinions of yours? Yes, of course. I believe that this issue is far from being a social responsibility issue. So each and every one of us have the responsibility to do whatever it takes. So what do we do in Insider? Since the beginning, we have a program called 1+1+1. And Insider becomes an academia. In the weekends, our engineers are coming, or the high school students are coming, and they receive a coding education, but the coding education is not sufficient, because in order to build up, you need a vision, and we try to give that vision as well. That's the reason why we give a lot of trainings. And we have graduated many students, and 70% of them were girls. But of course, we want to decrease the age. Our target is to actually work with the elementary school children, because a young child doesn't know what a CTO is or an entrepreneur is, because you have to teach them, otherwise they cannot imagine or dream or get inspired. The more you dream, you can actually put targets apart from your dreams. And that's the reason why she codes, she leads women in tech programs. And we are mentoring young students, because inside they're actually at a higher level, at the CEO level, 60% are women, and they are very active. Indeed, women are very much active in these programs, and I have very lovely friends. And sometimes you also receive a lot of information as well, reverse feedback maybe. And what can I do here? What can I do in my company? What can I do in my life? The young woman,
yapabiliriz? Daha fazla kadın
well,
mühendis
being in the sector, how can we bring up a certain area and space for them to develop their mentality? Insider is actually a good example, but apart from Insider, we need definitely much more companies apart from this in order to make a change and take action in this field. Of course, in order that we see more women in startup, women like you and Hande, you are definitely role models, and you have a great responsibility about this. And thank you very much for sharing the story of Insider, and particularly to Hande and to you and to all of your team. I would like to congratulate you. Thank you so much. Distinguished participants, the last session of today is going to be made under the sponsorship of Turkish Telecom. And our theme is Agriculture 5.0, the future of agriculture, food, and technologies. And before we pass on to a session, I would like to invite the keynote speaker to the room, Mr. Stuart Oda, future designer and urban farmer entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm really excited to share a little bit more about agricultural technology, my company's view and our work in the industry, and also how we feel that this will transform how food is grown, how food is consumed, and leading to a much more food secure and food safe country kind of world going forward. So again, my name is Stuart Oda. I'm the founder and CEO of Alaska Life, and we offer what we call farming as a service. And what we mean by this is that our company develops turnkey vertical farms for customers that are looking to grow food locally. And we also develop precision agricultural solutions, so software, as well as automation IoT devices to help customers that are looking to maximize their existing farms' productivity and efficiency. A very important place to start for our team is the vision for our company. And our vision is to democratize access to fresh and nutritious food by democratizing how food is grown and by democratizing access to the knowledge of how food can be grown better. I guess this vision statement is the guiding principle behind everything that we do from a product perspective, a partnership perspective, and even from the investors and governments that we work with organizations that are aligned with this vision. Just to give a very broad overview of the industry, the agricultural supply chain is incredibly complex and it's very, very long. So production is happening it's typically happening in very concentrated areas, very far away from the source of consumption. It's being done by a huge number of producers using different techniques and technologies, equipment and inputs. And then all that food is then being transferred to processors, logistics providers, eventually wholesalers. And this is where individuals and consumers, as well as businesses, have access to food. And so as you can kind of see, food is moving from producer to consumer. It's moving through a lot of hands through a very, very complex supply chain. And what this results in is some of the challenges that you see at the bottom. So there's over $1 trillion of food waste globally every single year. The distance that food travels is getting farther and farther every single year. There are over 600 million food safety cases annually, with a majority of them being in emerging market countries. And there are over 50 countries that are considered food insecure, which means that they are importing the majority of their calories and also their nutritional needs. And so this is kind of what the supply chain looks like. From a supply demand perspective, there are some major megatrends that are helping to promote development and modernization of agriculture. The first one is urbanization. So there's a huge concentration of individuals living in big cities. And those individuals are also becoming more educated. They're becoming more affluent and wealthier. And these individuals are demanding much, much higher quality products. The numbers that you see here are actually just for China. And if you include the Middle East and Africa and other emerging market countries, the numbers are much, much larger. So urbanization is over 500 million people moving. Over 1 billion people will enter the middle class. And an enormous amount of money is being spent on higher quality fresh produce. And as the younger generation is becoming wealthier and more educated, they're consistently demanding much, much higher quality products. They want products that are more sustainable, that are higher in nutrition, that are more environmentally friendly, and also just overall just better for their community. So if they had a choice between buying something that's locally produced versus imported, they have a preference for something that's local. So there is this huge shift that is happening in terms of the demand for higher quality, locally grown, sustainable, fresh produce. So, and really within this, one of the big challenge is actually in food production. It's at the very, very beginning of the supply chain. And so to be able to address a lot of the challenges related to standardizing and also using better practices and processes, my team has been focusing on building urban farms, indoor urban farms. And this is kind of the first part of our vision statement of how can we democratize the way in which food is grown. We wanted to build a standardized indoor vertical farming system that can be placed anywhere in the world. So whether you are based in Turkey or based in China or based in somewhere in North America, that no matter who is operating the farm, they will get the same results. And what's really exciting about this technology is not only that we're working on it, there's a large number of companies that are working on the solution, but what's really exciting about it is that this can be implemented in many, many different locations. So we have converted unused shipping containers into urban farms. We've converted unused parts of restaurants and offices and hotels into urban farms. We've converted underground parking structures. So now that a lot of people are no longer driving, there's a lot of urban infrastructure that's no longer being used. And we've converted these spaces into urban farms as well. And so what's really exciting is that as we think about the next generation of sustainable cities that are being developed, food production can coexist with where people are working and living. And this is a very, very exciting development in this industry, of agriculture 5.0. And what's really making this possible is the development of a number of technologies. So there are a lot of companies right now that are focused on device LEDs, monitoring and automation systems, specialized cameras to be able to understand the plant's health, and farm management software. And all of these technologies combined really allow anybody anywhere to be able to have the same level of consistency and productivity as a farmer that would have 20 or 30 years of experience. And so we are able to truly democratize the knowledge, how food is grown, by having these kinds of tools that are being developed. And within our company, we understand that all aspects of these IoT devices and software is very, very critical for the development and the adoption of this technology. And so everything that you see on this slide has been developed by our teams to make it easier and more affordable for customers anywhere around the world to be able to access them and to have the same success that we're having. One area that I'll look into, and this is a very hot topic within kind of agriculture 5.0, is the integration of AI machine learning into agriculture. And what you see here is actually our camera system detecting a problem with the plants. And what we're trying to show here is what the human eye can see. So a commercial experienced farmer would see are the photos that you see on the bottom. And what our camera is able to see and detect, you see the photos on the top, the very colorful photos. And the purpose of this slide is to show that no matter how well trained you are, it's very difficult to diagnose a problem as soon as it happens. It takes quite a bit of time for the human eye to recognize that there is actually a problem with the plant's health. And what's really exciting is that the way in which we've developed our camera, as well as the AI that's training on it, we're able to take about 20 to 30 years of commercial farming experience and let our camera do all the work, and then inform the farmer that there is a problem and that they need to take an action. So what might have otherwise taken decades of experience to understand how to farm better, how to take care of your plants better, how to increase your yields, how to improve your efficiency, we can now take all of that experience, decades and decades of experience, and condense it into a very simple product for anybody to be able to operate. And what's really exciting about the photos that we're able to generate is that they're simple enough for even an untrained individual to be able to interpret. So, the way in which we are able to stain these photographs, with our camera allows us and our AI to be able to detect problems very quickly, but also be very definitive. And this camera currently is able to detect a problem with the plant's health 24 times faster than a commercial farmer with at least 20 years of experience. So there is a huge improvement in this technology, and by making this available, really Agriculture 5.0, will be able to make agriculture significantly more sustainable going forward. Kind of going back to the indoor farming aspect, what's really exciting is that as we're able to control many aspects of the climate and the farming, we can be significantly more sustainable. So our farms are able to can operate with up to 99% less water, less land, less fertilizer. We require about 5 times less labor, as well as 5 times less food waste. And we require absolutely no chemical pesticides or GMOs. And what's really exciting about this is that, as climate change is making conventional farms less predictable and also lower yielding, we can supplement a lot of the production that may be lost in conventional farms and make them available in indoor farms. And as the technology is really developing, we're able to also grow this food in a way that is just as cost effective as traditional greenhouses. And our goal is eventually to be just as cost effective as conventional field farms. A lot of people look at indoor farming and kind of Agriculture 5.0, and a lot of the photos that they see are actually focused on leafy greens. And what we're really excited about is this industry is developing very, very quickly. And we are, the industry is currently able to grow between 200 to 500 different varieties of fresh produce indoors. Our team currently grows a little bit under 200 varieties, everything from simple microgreen varieties and lettuces all the way to strawberries and flowers and tomatoes. And so what's really exciting is that as this technology is developing further and further, that the amount and variety of food that can be grown is increasing enormously. And what really makes us all kind of work together, is really going back to the automation systems. But what's really exciting for us is that the same technology that we are developing for use in indoor farms, we can also use in greenhouses and traditional farms. And so what you see here is actually our monitoring and automation system that we are using to automate our indoor farm. And we've been using this and trialing this in greenhouses here in China for the past 2 years. And we're expanding our trials to North America and also to the Middle East this year in 2022. And so what's very exciting is that as the technology is evolving, that we can make an impact and improve more traditional methods of food production by taking the technology for kind of a high precision indoor farming and make them more available elsewhere. And of course, all this is made possible really because of the fact that there's an enormous ecosystem around us. So we work with partners all around the world to manufacture our technology, to distribute it and finance it. And in terms of our partnerships, we work with an enormous number of strategic partners, global innovation ecosystems, and media partners to be able to help educate and engage customers and partners and investors and even employees that are looking to join this movement, this Agriculture 5.0 movement, anywhere in the world. And of course, and I'll end on this slide, is really not only do we need to work with industry partners to manufacture things and get them into customers' hands. But we also need to work with everybody from civil society and governments, as well as media partners. But of course, we need a very, very multidisciplinary team. We need a team that has a huge variety of backgrounds to be able to tackle new challenges in agriculture in ways that haven't been addressed before. So we work with a lot of different universities, different organizations that are linked to high-end fine dining, but also to the space industry. And we work with a large number of entities around the world and employees to be able to make an impact in agriculture going forward. So thank you very much for having me again. And I'm really, really looking forward to kind of listening in on the panel discussion and also to being able to actively engage with anybody that's on, that's joining today to see how we can bring this technology to more regions around the world and try to make a bigger impact in communities all across the planet. So thank you for having me.
Sayın Stuart Oda'ya çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Mrs. Stuart Oda, thank you very much for your participation. Well, when it comes to food and agriculture technology, what kind of a structure we are in, so and how can costs be reduced and productivity increase with agriculture 5.0? How will big data and blockchain technologies transform the agricultural supply chain? Which new technologies will meet the record food need to feed the world population, which will reach 10 billion in 2050? While 70% of the total fresh water resources on Earth are used in agriculture, what should be the smart water use policies that need to be developed? What kind of roadmap should be followed with public-private sector coordination and cooperation in order to provide technical infrastructure and training to our farmers to determine standard-setting legislation in agricultural practices, to expand infrastructure investment with mobile operators, to disseminate applications and systems of smart agriculture as a state policy, to support agricultural tools, equipment, and domestic software to be produced for 5G use with incentives? And what are the techniques developed for alternative protein sources? So we have these questions and many more similar questions in our session sponsored by Turkish Telecom, Agriculture 5.0, the future of agricultural food and technologies. In order to moderate the session, I'd like to invite Vahap Hunyar, General Coordinator of Dünya Newspaper, and also I'd like to invite our speakers to the stage, Tülin Akın, founding partner of Tabit, Professor Dr. Mehmet Emin Çalışkan, Dean of Agricultural Sciences and Technologies, Faculty of Niğde Ömer Halis Demir University, Nafiz Karadere, Chairman of WWF Turkey, Yusuf Kıraç, Chief Technology Officer, Turk Telecom. I'd like to invite you to the stage and then I'll give the floor to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, İBRU. I'd like to thank all the panelists. We all listened to Stuart's presentation, agriculture, land-free agriculture models. Actually, we have already started this kind of applications in our country. So right now in the Agriculture 5.0 session, the future of agriculture and food technologies. So based on the list that I have, I'll start with the session. I'll start with Tülin Akın. You are the co-founder of Tabit. As far as I know, you have initiated an incentive with Vodafone, and when it comes to digital solutions, we know that there are some repercussions on farm and to what extent they are beneficial and in what aspects are the farming activities getting benefit out of these applications. Actually, we started working about agriculture in 2015 website, and on the website we wanted everyone to learn about the weather forecast and stock exchange prices, but back then internet was not very much widespread and farmers didn't have access to the computers. For that reason, we wanted to do some other stuff, and we started with the problems of the farmers. And in the very first place, there was the marketing problems, and there were dependency on the buyers, and also buyers wanted to buy the products according to his own offer, and farmers were very much vulnerable against natural disasters because this is a production facility without any wall and roof, and they were not giving up on the conventional old farming technology. It was not because they were not open for risks or any technological advancements, but they didn't want to take any risks because they didn't want to lose their annual quote. So it was preventing agriculture development. Purchasing power of the farmer was tried to be enhanced with microcredits. With a private bank, we modeled the first farmer credit card. And while we were working on this, we understood that all the farmers were using mobile phones, and along with Vodafone infrastructure, we wanted to share information to our farmers through mobile phones. As of 2010, we have been doing this, and we were able to disseminate it in 4 corners of our country. And everyone was able to establish everyone was able to publish their status, and they were able to share the weather forecast, and they can actually learn the state incentives beforehand, and they are able to learn a lot of information in advance, and they can easily match with the seasonal conditions and what they do. This is really important, and they have the ability for controlling what they do, because farmers who do not change production methods right now are obliged to change the way that they consume. When they are confronted with climate crisis, old conventional methods will not provide the same results, and technology is really important in this respect. Farmers are aware of this situation, and right now they are aware of this very issue, and they can follow the product prices on the mobile phone, and this is really important. And in the African countries, this has become a habit, but we need to take another step, and from the farm we have to take data, and data management of the farm should be controlled remotely, and also the cost should be reduced, and this system should be accessible with a reasonable price. So at this very stage, this is the expectation of the farmers, and this change is going to be much more prevailing in the future. And during the pandemic, we have collected the very harsh effects, and farmers right now are facing with climate change. And when the technology is implemented, I believe that farmers' perception over new technologies are going to change. Thank you very much, Tülin. We have already listened to an example, and let's move with Mehmet Emin Çalışkan.
Çok uzak ihtimal gibi düşünürdük. Tabii ki Afrika'da falan
We
zaten
were talking about food crisis in the past.
daha yüksek olan ülkeleri
And on the other hand,
falan aklımızın ucundan pek geçmez gibiydi.
in the
Ama
past, we never thought that we would actually face such an issue at all. But later on, after the Russian and Ukrainian war, we have faced a wheat problem. So in the year 2050, the population of the world will reach up to 10 billion people. And in order to feed so much amount of people, we definitely have to work on it on an agricultural level. So what type of technological developments should be done for that? Mr. Vahab, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you all from NIDE, which is also the cradle of agriculture. Of course, we were talking about food crisis, but we thought that it would not come so soon. first we had the COVID-19 pandemic, then we had the Russian and Ukrainian war, and that made us realize that this is not so far away. So it limited the accession to food. Food crisis in the beginning, in the past, was actually the crisis for the region that were in problematic areas or were quite poor. But there's, of course, the physical accession towards food. Russia and Ukraine, as we all know, 15% of production and exportation at 30% of food, of wheat, and also sunflower is produced in Ukraine. Now that is a problem here. So that means that even though if you are economically rich, financially rich, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually access to the food. Of course, the population is increasing, and there will be at least 60 or 50% extra food that we are going to consume. Welfare, when welfare gets better, of course, there would be a more diverse food productions. But one other region might say that, can I find enough food? But some others will be looking for more healthier, more functional food. So the hard question is, can we do both of them together? Can we bring more healthier food and produce healthier food for people and sufficient food? But of course, the only problem is not the increase of population, but of course the climate is changing. And the climate change definitely threatens the agricultural production. And in general, when we think about the world, the climate change definitely is a serious threat against production, food production. And our natural sources are depleting as well. Our soils are depleting, the existing soils due to constant utilization becomes polluted. It's not productive anymore. And agriculture has many uncertainties, and each year we are adding up new uncertainties to agriculture. So that is the reason why in a smaller area with lesser resources, with more hard conditions and with more struggle, we have to actually produce. So how can we increase the agricultural production? You either have to increase productivity or you have to intensively use your natural agricultural farms. Maybe you are going to intensify the utilization of those lands, or you are going to open up new agricultural areas, agricultural lands. Otherwise, it doesn't seem very likely that we can actually meet the needs of the people in the future. In the past, from 2005 to 2011, we can see that 3.6 billion hectares of land has been lost in Turkey. What is the reason? Is it because that the farmers do not want to produce anymore? Or is it because of the soils are not very fruitful? But there is a great amount of land that has not been used. And I'm a person working in the field. And I do believe to the fact that that amount is even higher. The farmer register systems, the incentives, and the lands that are not planted. I do not know how much of these lands are really covered up by the farmers. And I guess there is a great amount of a thing that we have to do there. How can we use the existing areas much more, in particular where agriculture is made in intensified lands? There is a lot of actually things going on there. According to the studies, it shows us that It is said that in the researches that if we add up new agriculture areas or you intensify the utilization of the existing lands, it can only actually add 15% to the productivity. In order to increase productivity, there are a few roads and ways. We need to improve the ways we are actually planting. We need to use a better product management. For instance, we need to make better analysis about the potentials. And we need to understand from where this deficit of productivity is occurring from. And innovative products, plant security products, and nanomaterials, etc., are also adding up to this. So how can we actually continue doing it? Because sustainability is also very much important. We need to take up on these things as well. The input, the best way we can do it about sustainability is perhaps to use the technology, and technology should be in the forefront about this. Ms. Tülin has already been talked about some certain issues about this, and our other speakers are going to be talking about good examples. But what we intend to do is definitely to use technology in the farmlands. We have started up. There are good examples about this. There are, for instance, they are using different types of sensors and early alert systems, production, quality estimations, maps, etc. There are plenty of applications, of course, that are ongoing, but there are also some sort of interventions because there's a high cost, is not easy to use, and the amount that the farmer has to pay, etc. So that's the reason why there are plenty of factors about this. And another thing that is we can do to increase the productivity is to use better genetics of the plants. So from the past till today, and particularly in the last 60, 70 years, the genetic technologies are used and they are used on wheat, on rain, or in different types of products, like in rice plants. New technologies and genetic technologies are used, and it was seen that it would be really possible to have a better productivity. And on the other hand, we cannot say that we are not in the end of the genetic potential right now. There is a great amount of an option here, and on the long term, the genetics, we can improve the genetic structures of the plants. I suppose that this is the best sustainable way to do it, because if we use the same gene, we can have the same amount of an actually productivity. But if we use a new genetic technology, then we can have more products, perhaps. So there are plenty of different things that we need to debate upon this. There might be something that we need to really debate upon, that we need to make good analysis. But I am also an instructor at the university about agriculture genetic technologies. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want to create seeds that are Frankenstein. We are using these genetic potentials in order for the good of the people. And the safety of food and the sustainability of food are areas in which we have to really work on. If we just actually put a barrier to certain technologies, then I guess we will be lagging behind in time. And that is the reason why we need, from conventional style methods, we need to go through a more scientific method. And this is going to happen in the next coming future. the vertical agriculture has become really very popular, like indoor agriculture or soilless agriculture. There are a lot of startups and converted into really big companies. We shouldn't underestimate them. Right now in Turkey, there are not enough startups like that, or there are small-scaled actually researchers, but the number of large-scaled of researchers are not very much. There are a few areas I know in which really nice researches are being made, and the conclusions seem likely to be very satisfying. But that isn't sufficient, of course. This is an area of development. And one other issue here is the human resources has to be also created. So there was a report, and in that report it is said that the farmer's average age is 52. 69% of them are graduated from elementary schools. So that is the reason why the adaptation of the technology is a real problem. And the young people stay away from agriculture. We need to make it more attractive for the young people. And maybe then we should make, I think we are neglecting publications. In particular, we need to have a better organizational structures for publications. We have to be working together with the universities. And the production organization is also producer organization is also another problem. And we have fragmented lands and also small-scaled lands, which is actually limiting our scientific exploration in that area. And that's the reason why the producers have to be organized. They should become an organization like a cooperative. So we should use the technology, and in order to overcome any problem about marketing, for instance, we need to make the necessary assessments, of course. These are the areas that we have to be working on. And of course, I am the dean of the agricultural faculty. Of course, young people can come to, should actually deal with farming or agriculture, but on the other hand, we need to find really smart minds that can come to the agricultural faculties. So we need to actually really find bright children and attract them to the agricultural faculties. Maybe there can be other programs that we can add up to. There can be support incentive programs, for instance. We should definitely talk about this and persuade young people. And we should also show that agriculture is also profitable for your daily lives. There are definitely, of course, marketing issues, etc. When we think about some certain input problems, that really doesn't very much attract the young people. But we need to talk about this. We need to think about this. So if a student passes the exam with only 2 mathematical questions out of 20 questions, then it is definitely not possible for them to understand technology and science. And that's the reason why we need to use all the arguments that is necessary to attract the young people to agriculture. Thank you very much. While I was listening to you, popped up to my mind that either we have to increase the productivity, or we are going to use existing lands in a more productive way, or we are going to open up new lands. And we cannot open new lands right now. Actually, there are places like that, but let me give you an example without actually delaying your time and taking too much of your time. I suppose 15, 20 years ago, I can say. The president of Çekil, Professor Metin Sözen, has organized us, and we went to Tokat from Istanbul. And in Tokat, the governor was Ayhan Nasuhioğlu. And Osman Arolat, who was the main author of our
Nafiz Bey de
newspaper,
muhtemelen tanıyacaktır. Belki sizler de
and two
tanırsınız.
friends of
Grow
ours,
Fide'nin sahibi Hasan Ünal. Onu
and Hasan Ünal,
Tokat'a davet etti ve
came
valiyle
to
birlikte bir
Tokat.
çalışma yapıldı.
And they started to make a
O
study
sırada,
with the
o
governor. At
çalışma
that period of
başladığı
time,
sırada 50
when the
farklı
study
domates
initiated,
fidesi kullanılıyordu kentte.
50 different
En uygun fideler aralarından seçildi. Sanıyorum 5-6 yani onu geçmez hale
seedlings were
getirildi.
being
Ciddi
used.
bir şekilde bir
10 or
domates
15
verimi
of them
patlaması yaşandı orada.
have been used out
Çok
of
önemli ve
50.
güzel bir örnekti.
And
Yani
great
hiçbir
amount
şeyle
of
oynamadan,
tomato
gen
production has
teknolojisiyle
been received.
fazla
So we
oynamadan
didn't
ki
actually
gerçi Hasan
use much
Ünal
of a
şey
genetic
yapıyor, fide
technology.
aşılamaları falan yapıyor, bir
Of
sürü
course,
şeyler yapıyor.
Mr. Hassan was
Bal
making the
kabağına
seedling
karpuz aşılayıp
vaccination.
yeni şeyler çıkarabiliyor ama
Maybe he
sonuçta
can
burada
also
uygun
use
verim alabilecek fideleri seçmek konusunda ya da tohumları seçmek konusunda önemli bir
yellow
örnekti.
squash on
İkincisi de bu sabah
watermelon can create something
Trabzon
new.
Ticaret Borsası
Well, that
Başkanı'nın
can
da
be
olduğu bir
done. And on the other hand,
oturumda sohbet
early in the
ediyorduk.
morning in the session, we were
Tabii
talking with
Karadeniz bölgesi
with a
alanların en
friend of
dar
ours.
olduğu, tarım alanlarının en dar
The
olduğu
Black Sea
yerler.
region has
Diyor
not
ki bizde
many agricultural
dönüm başına
lands
100
due
kilo
to its
ancak fındık
geography.
alabiliyoruz. Halbuki
We
Amerika'da
can get
olsa ya
100
da
kilos
dünyanın başka
of
yerlerinde
nuts in a
200 kilo,
small
250
area.
kilo,
However,
300
in the
kilo alınan
United
yerler var.
States, there are
Biz de
areas where
örnek
they
bahçeler
can
yapmaya
get
başladık.
a
Örnek
productivity of
bahçelerden
200-300
400
kilos.
kilo
Then we started
alabildiğimiz yerler
making
var diyor.
some
Demek ki olabiliyor.
examples,
Orada da
exemplary areas,
yaşlanmış
and they can actually
ağaçları
receive
feda
400 kilos of
etmekten tabii çekiniyor insanlar. Yani
nuts.
yenisini dikeceğim, bekleyeceğim falan filan yerine
And of course, the people are a
eski
little bit
ağaçları,
more
mevcut
reluctant
ağaçları devam ettirince
to
verimleri düşük kalıyor. Orada da öyle çalışmalar var. Bunlar da
cut the old
umut verdi.
trees
Bunları
and
aktarıp
plant
ondan
new
sonra da
ones.
sözü
But that also is
Nafiz
necessary
Karadere'ye,
for having a
Doğal
better
Hayat
productivity.
Koruma Vakfı
And I would like to give the floor
Başkanı'na
to Mr.
getirmek
Nafis.
istiyorum. Nafiz Bey, şimdi
Mr.
iklim
Nafis, as you
değişikliğini
know,
artık aynı şey gibi,
we were talking
hani
about
gıda krizi
climate
gibi
change.
çok ciddi şekilde, daha da ciddi şekilde
Climate
hissediyoruz
change
hepimiz artık.
is
İşte
becoming very
bir
threatening
takım
to us,
yangınlar
and
falan
we
da
feel
kendini
it. And
gösteriyor,
there are
seller kendini gösteriyor.
wildfires
E,
going on every
Su
year in
konusunda
all parts of
aslında
the continent.
sorunlar yaşıyoruz.
And of course,
Yıllar
we are
önce bir
facing problems
Karadeniz,
about water as
daha
well.
doğrusu
A few
Artvin
years
Maçayel
ago
gezisi
in
sırasında
Artvin,
Tema
in the
Vakfı'nın
Black Sea area,
kurucularından
one
Nihat
of the
Gökyiğit şey
founder
demişti.
of Tema
Türkiye aslında
has
bizim
said that
sandığımız gibi su zengini bir ülke
actually
değil.
Turkey
Aslında su
is
fakiriyiz
not
demişti.
rich of
Gerçekten de
water.
öyleyiz.
We are poor of
Şimdi
water.
bu suyla
It was said to
ilgili
me.
birçok ülke gıda
And
güvenliğini tehdit
definitely,
eder boyutlara gelmeye
apart
başladı su
from
konusu.
this, on the
Bize
other
de
hand,
geçen sene kurak geçti ve ciddi anlamda
last year there was
düşüşleri
a
yaşadı. Çok
drought.
şükür bu sene herhalde
But
daha iyi olacak gibi görünüyor.
fortunately, this year is
Şimdi
going to be better.
ülkemizde
There was much of a rainfall.
tatlı suyun
And
%70'i
sweet
tarımda
water,
tüketiliyor
70% of sweet
biliyoruz.
water is been
Ve
used
her ne
in
kadar
agriculture.
teknolojiler devreye girse de
And even though there
hala
are new
ciddi
technologies,
miktarda
still
vahşi sulama
there is
söz
a
konusu.
wild
Sizce
watering
akıllı
going on.
sulama teknikleri tarımda su
What do you
tüketimini
think
nasıl etkiler?
about smart
Daha az su ile
irrigation?
daha fazla
With
tarım
less
verimi
water,
elde
can we
etmek mümkün olur mu?
create,
Bu tabii
receive
indoor
better
denilen
productivity?
Sayın Oda'nın
And of
gösterdiği
course,
tekniklerle çok daha düşük
there are different
şeyler
types of
su
techniques,
kullanımı
etc.
söz konusu ama siz neler söyleyeceksiniz? Buyurun.
What would you like to say?
Thank you very much. And from time to time, of course, by applying some technical information, I'll try to answer your question. As you have mentioned, agriculture sector uses 70% of water in our country. It's leading agriculture. It's the leading sector, uses the most amount of water, and unfortunately, wrong irrigation method is the biggest problem in our country. We have the surface irrigation method for the agricultural lands. 5.7 million hectare of agriculture area. Only in 110,000 hectare area out of this total amount, there is a drip irrigation method, which is the most efficient one. Only at this portion of this whole agricultural land, we use the drip irrigation model. This is the most effective irrigation model against the lack of water and for water saving. And this is the most important topic that we have to discuss. And maybe the conventional irrigation, as you all know, we bring water with some open canals and then we transfer water to the area naturally with the system. Before water reaches to the farm, some portion of it evaporates, or else with the leakages, some portion is lost. So we have to switch from the open canal system to the closed pipe system in order to prevent leakages, and the pressurized irrigation methods like the drip irrigation is one of the most important obligatory that we have to adopt. It is 2% among all the irrigation methods when it comes to drip irrigation. And with this amount, we lose a lot of water sources, and many wetlands unfortunately use its ecological and economic values, and as a result of this we lose our efficiency in Turkey. And in Turkey, total consumption water is 44 billion cubic meter. For irrigation purposes, 32 billion cubic meter water is used. Drip irrigation makes water saving up to 52%. So if we calculate this, when we switch into drip irrigation for our country's agriculture, 16 billion cubic meter water is going to be saved. If we calculate Turkish population as 80 million, it is actually meeting our 3 yearly water needs. So if I'm to give you an example, Menderes Basin, which is also one of the economic priority areas for us in Iot and Söke, we have some exemplary implementations. Up to 80% there is cotton production. Around Söke, in terms of ecological importance, we have Bafa Lake for cotton production. With the old traditional canalways, we collect water, and when we use this irrigation method, as you all know, it's the spraying irrigation method. So this is leading us to lose land and water, and it leads salt formation on the land as well, and it leads many more losses and harms of Buffalo as well. Buffalo Lake is very crucial for cotton production and fishing purposes.
Devamı için de şart. Söke'de damla sulama
And it
yöntemi.
is a must that we have to use drip irrigation method. And in Söke, with the drip irrigation method, it has been calculated that we can have great savings
Biri demek oluyor ki
billion yearly basis. And this is only specific to Söke. And in
verimli topraklarımızın
per
kaybını
car, we
önleyerek
can also have some cotton production efficiency.
zemin
We can also
hazırlamış oluyor.
prevent losses on our very efficient and productive lands, so that we can have better efficiency in the farming activities. We need to provide support to our farmers and all the NGOs, local governments.
Bölgede yürütmekte
They
olduğumuz
need to assume huge responsibilities in the cotton production around Söke. In the pilot project for transition to pressurized irrigation system, we try to eliminate barriers for the sustainable drip irrigation system, and we are doing our best. Thank you very much.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very
Nafiz Bey.
much. Nafiz Bey, thank you.
Evet Yusuf Bey, şimdi size geliyoruz. Siz de yine
Well,
bir
now
şirketini temsil ediyorsunuz.
you
Sizden de
represent
bir tarım 5.0 dediğimiz
one of the very important companies in our country when it comes to 5.0 agriculture. What can you say? In what aspects we can reduce the costs as a representative of Turkish Telecom? Thank you very much. As Turkish Telecom, we are the sponsor of this session, and I'd like to extend my salutations to everyone. Well, yes, in the production philosophy, there is this very basic factor. If you can control one thing, then you can control that. You can manage that thing. So what I mean by control is about actually observation. Can you observe it? Can you scale it? Can you measure it? And can you evaluate what you measure? So telecommunication is under digitalization, is also developed thanks to 5G technologies and infrastructure developments, and also fiber infrastructures. In addition to that, there is Internet of Things, the IoTs, roughly speaking, sensors, cameras, and other devices, and also data that is going to be created by this AI and machine learning. Moreover, using these technologies, what can be done in the agriculture? This is what we are trying to say. So agriculture, energy, transportation are at the vertical zone of the telecommunication sector. And in the industry, we are focusing everything one by one. I'd like to give you some numbers, especially when it comes to IoT. As the previous speakers have already mentioned, in Agriculture 5.0, for us to provide this automatization, we have to embed IoT devices into our lives. As of 2021, all around the world, approximately over 2.2 billion IoT devices were available, and by 2030, it will have been 2 times higher than this number. There will be between 6 to 7 billion IoT devices. I'd like to give you information about IoT and agriculture. There are approximately 45 million devices in IoT as of the end of 2021, but it's going to increase by 11 or 12%. But in the other sectors, it's going to increase by 2 or 3 folds. But in the agriculture, it's going to increase by 12 or 11 times. So it means that agriculture is not getting use of technology to the best extent. And also there is a potential lying ahead of us, and it's going to be accelerating its momentum, gaining more momentum. And in the previous speeches, we have already listened to it from our speakers. And also, technology and agriculture cooperation is really crucial. We know that in the upcoming years, like I have stated beforehand, a very hectic agenda awaits us. Let's start with Agriculture 5.0, reduction of the costs, increase on the efficiency. What can we do, and what is the sector doing as of this moment? Let me continue in this respect. As of this moment, as the speakers have already stated, in 2050, we know that population is going to rise at a certain level, but there is also another important factor. According to the United Nations report, it will have been 10 billion in 2050, and 75% of it is going to live in urban areas. Along with the population increase, concentrated crowd on urban areas should be supported with more important sustainability works. And another important thing which has been mentioned by our speakers, it's actually a scarce source, water. This has been mentioned by the previous speakers. Water use, effective use of water. It's not only about water, actually, it's about energy efficiency. In order to increase more efficiency over our use, agriculture and smart agricultural implementations are at the very core of our lives. So what do I mean by smart agriculture? I'd like to underline the infrastructures here, 5G, for instance, and also produce IoT, these devices, Internet of Things devices, and also data driven out of these devices, and AI and machine learnings in relation with these technologies will be at a very important position in our lives. Well, there are a lot of benefits of digitalization in agriculture. First and foremost, we can control the inventory in our geographies. What do I mean by this? Geographical information system should be registering our farms and our agricultural lands. It's not about our farms, actually. IoT devices, sensors, and we are going to collect data like humidity and land measurement. Every kind of data should be registered with some sensors and video analytical devices and sound analytical devices. We need to have an inventory to evaluate the results. So as telecommunication sector, in the beginning of 2000, we did this, and our infrastructure was switched into digitalization. So first and foremost, there comes the preliminary factor. What do we understand from digitalization in agriculture? We need to control the inventory of agricultural inputs and outputs. This is, we need to take under control. And secondly, after doing all this previous thing that I have mentioned, digital equipped agricultural infrastructure instruments should be given to the farmers, and also farming conditions, and they were already started to be measured, and everything in this respect is going to be evaluated with all these technological developments. Like we have mentioned previously, and our professor has mentioned, technological infrastructure, technological literacy becomes very important, and from human beings to centralized automatization, we can actually add more on top of the agriculture and technology literacy. Because yes, today I have also mentioned this. So people who are dealing with agricultural implementations are over 50 years of age. If we can't reduce it down to youth, it will be a problem in the future, and that average is going to increase. Thanks to the IoT and machine learning and devices talking to one another, cost on the sector will be reduced. I'd like to touch upon 5G. So today this is 5G, and tomorrow it's going to be 6G, and it's going to go on like this. So what do we have here? First and foremost, with low latency and also high capacity on data transference and slicing. This is what we say in the technological terms. We are going to provide data flow with the slicing technologies specific to agriculture. There will be many ways for smart agricultural implementations, and along with this, there is another important topic. Yes, IoT and sensors, I have mentioned this before, and so the earth, the humidity of the land, and also many other factors could be measured by IoT, and video analytics will become really crucial for our lives. Instant monitorization is going to be evaluated, and they will be evaluated very well. So thanks to this video analytics, 5G and beyond 5G technologies will be providing us those opportunities. And previously, our speakers have already mentioned that. Thanks to these technological developments, remote control devices can be also functioning like autonomous devices and drones. Fertilizer application, and also video analytics, I have stated before, and any kind of data could be collected. So as Turk Telecom, what do we do? You have already stated many similar aspects like health and industry, transportation, education, energy, and for agriculture, this is another vertical dimension for us. So as of this moment, there are a lot of studies going on, and as you all know, internet in Turkey, for the first time, autonomous devices were used, vehicles were used, the control of the farms and the harvesting of the farms and getting data from the farms. We did this with Tarnet, and first test implementation was successfully completed through 5G. Smart fertilization, smart irrigation factors are, of course, going to be on the forefront. And most important thing here is that we know that technology is, of course, developed, but agriculture doyens should come together in an ecosystem, and we have to find a way to use all these technologies in a more productive way. We have to make negotiations all together. Thank you very much.
Çok
If there's
teşekkürler
any
Yusuf Bey.
additional questions of yours,
Şimdi
I'll be
ikinci
more
tur
than happy to
yapacağız. Bir
answer.
15-16
Now we are going to
dakikalık
have
zamanımız var.
our second
Kısa
tour, and we
kısa
are going to have
tamamlarsak hiç
15 minutes.
olmazsa bir
If we
ikinci
can
tur
just
konuşma
finalize it
şansını da
very
yakalamış oluruz.
briefly,
Böyle
then we
süreyi de
can
çok
have
fazla aşmadan.
another tour
Tülin Hanım
for
size tekrar
discussion
dönüyorum.
without exceeding our time
Şimdi
limitations. Now, Tülin, I'd
sizin
like to give the
uygulamalar
floor to you. So,
yanılmıyorsam, yanlış
if I'm
okumadıysam
not mistaken, if
1.6
I'm
milyon
not
kişiye kadar
reading
falan
it
ulaştınız.
wrongly, you have reached
Bu
upon
uygulamalarla
like
tarımda
1.6 billion
5.0 demek
people.
mümkün müdür sizin uygulamalara?
5.0, is this
Maliyet düşürücü
5.0
rolü
application
oluyor
on your
mu? Nasıl
side?
görüyorsunuz?
Is it
Onu
reducing the cost? How do you see this?
tespit
And
edebiliyor
can you
musunuz?
please talk about that?
Verimliliği artırıcı etkileri oluyor mu? Bir de
Is it increasing the
az önce
efficiency? And
hocamız
also,
söyledi,
previously,
ayrıca Yusuf
our
Bey de
professor has
bahsetti.
mentioned
Biliyoruz
and
ki
Yusuf Bey has
gerçekten de
already
tarımdaki
stated the
nüfus
similar statements.
50'nin üzerinde.
And
Kimi
population
araştırmalara
on
göre
the
55'e varmış
agriculture, the
durumda.
average age is above
İşte
50.
kimi
According to
araştırmalardan da
certain research, it
53
is
diyor.
near to 55.
Demek ki
In some research, it is
orada bir
53,
sıkıntı
52.
var.
So it
Belki
seems there
fiziki
is a
anlamda
kind of
sıkıntı var da
problem there.
teknolojiyi
Maybe
gerçekten
physical
de düşündüğümüz
problems are
gibi
occurring, but
kullanmayı
technology
beceremiyorlar mı?
is this really
Sizin
happening?
izleniminiz
Can
nedir?
they use
Buyurun.
technology? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll start
Tabii,
with the
buyurun.
last question. Actually, the technology utilization, of course, the age average is high, and also the farmers can be actually not well graduated, not well actually completed their trainings. But however, there's a great amount of a population of farmers, and the farmers are giving their own decisions in their lands, and they are meeting the needs of the world at about 80%. In Turkey, it is even higher, but all the technologies that are developed are made by big investors, giant investors, and these are managed by technology readers, literate people, and we are awaiting a lot of things from the farmer. They're making the productions, they are making the logistics, they are using the technologies and everything. But on the left, for instance, the farmers are generally literate only, and we need to create such a technology that they can easily use it, because most of them can only read and write. And that's the reason why otherwise these people are if we do not actually train them, otherwise they are going to be working in lesser lesser actually appreciated jobs. So that is the reason why we definitely suggest that the farmers work with technology. So you might see that. Which technologies are they using in the agriculture sectors? So they can use the social media, they are asking questions to each other, they have a social network, and on the other hand, they are shooting the photos of their products, they put it into the system, and they can sell their products from the website. They can use a tractor, and you know how hard to use a tractor is. You might imagine how hard to actually drive it is. Actually, they are not very far away to use the technology, but there is no technology that the pharmacists can use. So if you bring up an actually frequency, give a frequency paper to that person, of course you could say that a farmer cannot adapt itself to technology, but instead, if you give the results and say that you need to actually create a space here for your products, for instance, because of that reason, or you have to use this certain type of a pesticide, then he will understand it and will do it, of course. And you need to also create such a method that makes the farmer constantly go to the land and check out what happens there. Of course, the farmer has a very ancient information and knowledge, and that has to be adapted to technology. When that knowledge is not adapted to technology, then we cannot talk about the agriculture 5.0. It's called smart agriculture. From over the land, we can create, and we have created an Aydın training campus, and we have brought up some certain technologies and showing the technologies that they can easily use. And they said that we didn't know it was that simple. And the women are very much persuaded that they can actually do it properly, and they give very much interest to technology. But unfortunately, the technology developers has to think about the users as well, and they need to make a very simple interfaces. And these technologies can be developed, and that can be also distributed to all of the farmers, and it should be also accessible so that they can make investments. But of course, all technologies are dependent on giant companies. You need to use certain staff. But for instance, the technologies that are created in the plazas.
Hocam
Of course,
tekrar
doesn't
size
work at
dönüyoruz.
all.
Mehmet
Thank you
Emin
very much,
Hocam'a.
Ms. Tulin.
Şimdi normalde yine
And
teknolojiden
normally,
devam
as you
edecektim
know,
ama
I wanted
şimdi
to go further
sonuçta
on technology, but
özellikle
as a
gen
result,
konusu sizin konunuz olduğu için
genetics is
birkaç
your
cümleyle o konuyu
field of
bize biraz
expertise.
anlatmanızı rica etsem
And I would
acaba
like you
yanlış
to
mı
talk a
yapmış
little
olurum?
bit
Ben hep
about
şöyle
this
düşünüyorum.
technology. Would I be
Şimdi
wrong?
dünya
Because
açlıktan
I
mı ölsün
always
yoksa
think, should
genetiği
people
değiştirilmiş
die
ürünlerden
of
mi ölsün?
hunger or because of the
Böyle
products
demek çok mu
where
işi
the
abartır?
genetics have changed?
Nedir hocam?
Is it
Biraz
too
anlatır mısınız?
exaggerated? Could you please explain it to me? Actually, thank you very much for asking this question to me, because I couldn't have the possibility to talk about this in the first round. When we talk about the genetic technology, it's not only the organisms in which the genetics have changed. The genetic technologies has a great an immense scala. So organisms or plants of which the genetics are changed is a different thing. But I'm not saying that we should do that, but there are different types of arrangement. For instance, with the recent studies with a little DNA, without actually sending a DNA from another organism, you can actually make a change in the organism of the plant. That mutation is naturally been done already in the nature itself. In the genetic lineup, there is a change that is going on. That's what mutation is. For instance, there is a storm or there is a high electrical currency, for instance. But maybe because of plenty of other things, maybe the plant can be under stress. Or there might be actually a problem in fertilization, and that's the reason why mutation can occur as well. In the past, there are so many plants that have naturally been mutated. This CRISPR technology is not actually regarded as an organism in which the genetics have changed. As you know, there is a decision given, I suppose it was the European Union courts in many countries, in Euroseeds, and certain NGOs are making lobbying about this and creating an awareness study about that. So such technologies is not actually creating a Frankenstein. About hybrid seeds, there are also a lot of debates. Actually, the hybrid is a thing that we only intervene the fertilization somehow. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we are putting something strange into the DNA. That's not the case. So we shouldn't be very prejudiced about this. The seed technology is actually a seed. Of course, this is a chained link, because these seeds are going to be used also by the animals. For instance, think about the Middle Anatolia. Middle Anatolia has great amounts, is not very proper for cattle raising, for cattle breeding. So there you are putting them in a farm and you're constantly feeding them. In Konya, Aksaray, Niğde, there are a lot of farms of clovers, for instance. But of course, in the end, this will end and everybody follows it. But when we think about the water, everybody says that we can actually open a well at 20 meters. Now it takes 200 meters to get the water, for instance. We need to find the proper seeds, and we need to use the best irrigation technologies. The seed, for instance, the seed of clover or the maize of the seed of maize, they are very strategic. So sustainability is very much important. Now we have the war issue. Yes, we have the economy to buy it, we have the finances to buy it, but we can't because the ports are locked and Ukraine cannot send them, and England cannot get wheat, and England cannot get wheat as well. So now we can talk about a crisis. So people realize that this is until the war has occurred, we didn't understand the seriousness of this. That's why, as a country, we have to be working on this matter. There is the food sovereignty. If you do not develop the seed yourself, because a high rich wheat has to be bounded to a certain pattern, to a certain plant. And we have in the ministry have actually a registration system for that, in order where we write the name. And when we have a more diversity, then it is also about the intellectual property rights. For instance, if it is Germany that is building up that seed, then you have to pay for that seed to Germany. Otherwise, you are infringing the law of the intellectual property rights. This is also something to be thinking about. As for developing the seeds, we need to give a lot of support, and we should open the
Çok
pathways
teşekkürler hocam, sağ
to
olun.
new technologies. Thank you very much.
Biraz bizi en azından
And at least
bu gen konusundaki kafa karışıklığını
you have
önleyen cümlelerle beslediniz. Çok teşekkür ederim.
nourished us with new information about
Şimdi
the complex
az önce
issue
hocam da
of
bahsetti.
food
Sizin
and also
çeşitli
seeds. Thank you very
raporlarınız oluyor.
much.
Onlardan bir tanesi de
And it is,
sağlıklı
you
toprak
have
hareketi
certain reports,
projesi.
and
Onun
one of them
arkasından bir
is a
rapor
healthy
hazırladınız diye
soil
hatırlıyorum.
report
Eti'de
that you have made.
Eskişehir'de yaptınız.
In
Yanlış
Eskişehir, I
hatırlamıyorsam.
suppose, as far as I can
Bu
remember, that
projeden ne
your
sonuçlar
report
elde
was built
ettiniz?
up.
Mesela
What are the results of your
aldığım notlara
report?
göre proje kapsamında uygulanan anıza ekim
So,
yöntemiyle dekar başına mazot tüketimini 6 litreden 0,9
you
yani
were
1
talking
litreye
about that
indirmişsiniz.
the husk,
Nasıl oldu bu?
when you build
Nasıl
up a husk,
gerçekleşti?
for
Anlatır
instance,
mısınız
over
bunu?
there in that area, you can actually decrease the amount of oil you're using. Is it? Can you please explain this? Yes, well, now 88% of our agricultural lands are unhealthy. And of course, when you constantly use the land and cultivate it without cessation, that creates fatigue on the soil. And then in Eskişehir, we initiated a project for health and soil. And we initiated this project on 2020 September. And this was one of our reports, yesterday, today, and the future soil of Turkey. If you allow me, and I'm going to wrap up without taking much of your time. I just want to say a few things about the report. According to our report, Turkey has 2 times more erosion compared to other countries. There are 5 million hectares of lands are not suitable for agriculture, but without knowingly, people are using those lands, and that's the reason why it created a greater damage. And for that, we need to have more updated approaches, and we need to overcome and find good systems to overcome any type of the damage that has occurred on the soil. And a repairment of soil is also a new terminology that we are using, and it's very critical. In our report, we are bringing up some certain solutions. And within the scope of this project in Eskişehir, in a land of 50 hectares, we're working together with our wheat laborers. And this is only one issue that is actually decreasing the costs. And how does it happen? Let me just tell you. So there is, we have developed a certain type of a method, which is called a direct to the straw. We have also a machine for that. And of course, because you are not using too much actually cultivation, of course, the amount of movement on the land becomes lesser. So we, after the straw, instead of actually burning the straw, we keep it in the soil, and in the next season, rather than cultivating, we are with the planting machine, we are putting the seeds of wheat. In this way, it causes a great benefit to the soil. It actually creates the absorption, a good absorption in the water. This straw is actually becoming much more stronger, and in different types of seasonal changes, the soil becomes also better, and the damage that the wind and also the wind is causing is becoming is not actually damaging the land that much. And on the other hand, there's also a natural fertilizer that is occurring over there. And when you directly plant it, you are lessening the utilization of pesticide drugs. Of course, we are working together with our farmers. We are developing different systems and we're trying to implement them. And finally, I'd like to say, if you allow me, the climate crisis is not going to end. It's still ongoing, as we all know, and it is becoming even more serious each and every day. And on the other hand, due to this extreme weather conditions, we need to be working together with new technologies. And that's the reason why we need to rehabilitate our soils. And that is the reason why we have to work upon
Çok
the
teşekkürler Nafi Bey.
quality and the health
Evet
of the
Yusuf
soil.
Bey,
Thank you very
son
much.
söz sizin. Sıralamada
Mr.
böyle oldu ama
Yusuf,
kusura bakmayın.
the last
Fark
words
etmiyor.
is
Herkesin
upon you. I'm
süresi
sorry.
aşağı yukarı eşit devam ediyor.
More or less,
Size
you
aslında
all speak for
tarımda
the same time.
Tarım 5.0'da sizin gibi
And
şirketler hangi rolleri üstlenir diye soracaktım
Agriculture
ama bu arada 5G'den çok
5.0,
söz ettiniz.
you were
Biz
talking about
hafta sonu Dünya
5G
Gazetesi
a
olarak
lot. In the
Sapanca'da
weekend, as
bir
Dünya
zirve
Gazetesi,
gerçekleştirdik.
we
Orada ana
have made a summit in
konuşmacılarımızdan biri de
Sapanca.
Profesör
And one of our main
Erdal Arıkan'dı.
speakers was
Biliyorsunuz
Erdal
5G
Arıkan,
konusunda
Professor
çok
Dr. Erdal
önemli bir
Arıkan,
isim.
and he's
Dünyada
a
da
very
önemli bir
important
isim.
person about
O şöyle bir şey
5G,
söyledi. Dedi
also
ki
in the world.
bütün vatandaşların
that
kullanımını açmak üzere
in order
5G'yi
for
çok
the
büyük
utilization
yatırımlar
of
gerekiyor.
all of our
Türkiye'de bu
population that
yatırım
they can
gücü
use 5G, we need to
olmayabilir.
make a great
Onun için
investment.
de
That everybody can do that investment, and that
sektörel
is the
adımlar
reason
atmak
why
daha doğru olur.
sectoral steps should
Belki
be
de
taken.
böyle
He
sektörel
said, maybe
adımlar atılırken tarımda madem
while making a
5.0'ı
sectoral
konuşmaya çalışıyoruz.
steps, since we're
5.0'ı
trying
konuşmak
to
da herhalde
talk about
5G ile
agriculture
çok bağlantılı.
5.0,
Ne dersiniz?
and
Biraz bu konuda
5.0 is
bize
very much
bilgi
related with
verirseniz
5G.
teşekkür ederim.
I guess if you give a little bit information about this, I'll be more than happy. Mr. Erdal is very right to say so. Of course, for individuals, there will be 5G without doubt, but the number of handsets that can use 5G is not that much. In other countries, it's a little bit higher in number. And the other areas of utilization is in the industry. So in Europe, there's 5G action plan of the European Union, and it says that in 2025, the 5G, the direct impact of 5G, it will be 1.2 billion euro. One is the smart factories, 70 billion euro is expected for there, and the second important sector is the agricultural sector, and approximately 45 billion euro, an extra contribution is going to be created there. So I do agree to this idea. Actually, as for before the tendering has been made for 5G, we said that we initiated this situation with 5G with Arçelik. So in order to do this, you have to have a good fiber wires. And
So Türk Telekom has fiber internet connection in Niğde, and 93% of the streets in Turkey is embedded with fiber optic internet connection, and Türk Telekom is the ready operator in Turkey for 5G implementation, and we know the benefits of this technology. And yes, of course, we are still negotiating with the sector. We tested autonomous devices in order to dwell or dive into this sector very fast, and I believe it's going to be much faster in the future. So I really agree with Erdal. 5G in industry should be initiated, and we should go a very
Ben
fast
teşekkür ederim. Çok teşekkürler Yusuf Bey.
distance in a
Evet,
very long, short
panelimizin
period of time.
sonuna
Thank you very
geldik.
much, and this is the
Sayın
end of
Tülin
our panel.
Akın,
I would like to thank
hocamız
Tülin Akın
Profesör
and
Mehmet Emin Çalışkan,
our professor,
sevgili
Dr.
Nafiz
Mehmet Emin
Karadere
Çalışkan, Nafiz
ve
Karadere,
Yusuf
and
Kıraç Bey,
Yusuf
çok teşekkür
Kıraç.
ediyorum.
Thank you very
Katıldığınız ve
much for your
bilgilerinizi,
participation and
bildiklerinizi
contribution. Thank you so
bizimle
much for
ve bizi
sharing what you
izleyenlerle
know,
paylaştığınız için
what you
bir başka
experienced
etkinlikte
with us,
belki
and hope to
tekrar
see you
buluşmak
in
üzere
any
diyelim.
other
Hoşça kalın.
event. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We would like to thank all our panelists for their very valuable session. Esteemed participants, tomorrow we will be together again at 10 a.m. Tomorrow we will start with Hakan Aran and Cisco Turkish CEO Didem Kurun. We'll be having digitalization at the very heart of our lives. In the Turkish Coffee Talk session, we are going to start our conference, and then we will be talking about digital revolution and metaverse sessions at 3 p.m. Executive Board Member from İstanbul Selçuk Ergin will be in the Turkish Coffee Talks with the BTC Executive Board Management Member Özgür Güneci. They will be talking about new generation investment instruments, and then Reka Birlik and also the banking and fintech industries will be the last session of the day.